never, never time. Motif.
Oh, I like
Get
that.
it, baby.
Come on.
You didn't like that? I don't think I've ever fashioned the OT baby for anybody.
Harris, I'm proud of you. That
you.
really
I mean,
was good.
rolling in here like a long lost friend.
All right.
Good to have you. You said during one of the commercial breaks, because we got kind of heated a few times, there was one block I didn't say a word.
I noticed that.
I sat back and I was like, if I were home, I would be watching just like I'm
about Hillary Clinton's book. Understandable.
Yeah. Which, by the way, it's called What Happened. It sounds like something that came out of a therapy session.
You know how it would. But you know how it
talking to her friends.
But there's no question mark.
No, but I was going to say that's how it sounds. You know how it sounds. What happened?
I know.
What happened?
Her girlfriends did an intervention on a Friday night, like a therapy session, and they were like, "What happened?" And then they did the book, and they helped her write the book. I don't know. There was that, and then the whole idea of media bias. And the one thing that I would have added to that conversation, but I was just so enthralled with what you guys were talking about. You said that there's so much cynicism within the media, and I agree with you. But I also think that there is a lack of accountability and a lack of responsibility right now when you have leaked, classified information that puts the rest of the nation at harm, and it then becomes public without even a, hey, what's up? I have a problem with that as a journalist. I think it's the height of irresponsibility. And I don't care which side of the political aisle you're coming from. You don't do that. We have in local news this thing, well, we're not going to say the name of a rape victim because we don't want to make her more of a victim than she already is. And most news managers will agree on that. Why can't we go back to the days that we agree that checking the box of classified information off your list of things that you're willing to just say publicly is not acceptable?
It's an interesting question, just as someone that has watched the media for so many years and looking at it through history. It's just an interesting question to me because you find Democratic presidents and Republican presidents singing that same song, saying the same thing, right?
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter from which direction you're coming.
But at the same time, we never would have understood the depth of Watergate had it not been for leaks.
Okay, but there's a difference.
And so, but my point is, there is a role for whistleblowers.
Absolutely.
Right? What is the difference between a whistleblower and a leak? And I think that is just a time-honored journalistic challenge.
No,
right?
You're wrong
what
about
is that
that
difference?
You're wrong about that.
One person's whistleblower is another person's leak.
No, that's not true. Whistleblower is in its own category. And whistleblowing is in its own category protected. What we're talking about is one reporter or several reporters hearing a little something and then beginning the drumbeat without trying to double or triple source
but isn't that what
without
happened?
trying to triangulate and come around the facts like that, and without getting the understanding that I will never give your identity. I mean, the responsibility level now is that we're even finding out where the leaks are coming.
There's no difference.
This is dangerous. This is a dangerous place we're in, and it's in a different category because I agree with you. There has to be a way for people to get their information out.
Right,
but we are the holders of that information. We're given so much more is expected of us. We're talked about in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's no difference today, to your point, between the National Enquirer and like the New York Times and the Washington Post. I mean, I think a lot of it, too, is clickbait. You have a lot of journalists that are very interested in themselves. And how can I be trending on Twitter just for a brief moment in time? Instead of looking at the big picture of how might this impact national security? How might this be a problem for the American people? Is this really information they need to know? Or is this more harmful? I think we've become more about ourselves. And I think that is a real problem. I don't know if that used to be the case. I mean, you talk about the Watergate days, but it seems more than ever with social media and things. You've got journalists that have intentions that are not necessarily for what they used to be.
We've had journalists saying on the alphabet soup networks that don't spell anything like Fox, saying things like the president took a dump on his desk. I mean, come on. Yeah, the bar is so low, Mo, you can't even crawl under
it. And how many retweets are they hoping that gets, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
Look, I think I was really down on the media heading into this election, into this last election cycle. I just thought retweeting had replaced reporting in too many cases.
Wow, that's
right?
a powerful phrase.
I still see a lot of that. But I also see some good investigative journalism out there. I see some good fact-checking stuff out there that does help provide context, that does help give people information that they can use to decide. I'm not saying everyone is perfect. I think the media, oftentimes, this battle that you see out there between fake news and real news and Trump versus the media, that the media is too often willing to allow itself to become a protagonist in that without taking the necessary self-reflection.
I've said this before.
And there needs to be more.
The Wall Street Journal, I often quote the editorial page, but the Wall Street Journal, the reporters there, we would know about the ransom payment to Iran if not for the Wall Street Journal, the cash that was sent in the middle of the night on those airplanes. We would know about Theranos, the blood testing company, which basically was not what it said it was without those reporters at the Wall Street Journal. And that is incredibly valuable information. And I know that John Carrier, who broke that Theranos story, he worked on that. And again, what happens is these companies, they threaten you. And it's the same thing in the media.
Awful.
They threaten you. They sick their lawyers on you. They had lawyers calling people they thought he was talking to and threatening them. One man committed suicide during the investigation, but he kept at it. And that's the kind of terrific reporting that's still
happening.
And it still happens.
There's still a lot of it.
But at the same time, you get the likes of BuzzFeed out there publishing that really disgusting dossier that, you know, at least you got to give the New York Times and others credit. They still didn't stoop to that level. I think it's because of exactly what Abby said. These reporters and these internet sites are so desperate for clicks. They are happy to publish anything that they haven't sourced, that they haven't checked, that's a bunch of propaganda, if you would, from one side or the other, because they know that financially there's something there on the other end because they get the traffic.
So people don't know what to believe anymore. So I agree with you. I think there are a lot of good journalists out there. I really do. Problem is, a lot of times they're being washed out because of the folks that are not thinking about what their job is to do, to inform the American people.
Yeah.
You know, people, when I talk to voters and I talk to American people, they say, we don't know what to read. We don't know what to believe anymore. They say it's really tough for us.
This is what drives me crazy. This is what keeps me up at night now that I'm, again, back in my ivory tower of academia, that we are living in these silos and these bubbles. And we're talking about the mainstream media, but let's be honest, partisan media on both sides is guilty of this as well. There's a lot of really shoddy partisan reporting out there. But I think, you know, there used to be a day when there was a baseline set of facts, when we'd all watch the evening news and Walter Cronkite or whomever would tell us what was happening, and then both sides could use that as a starting point for their debate.
But you know what? But my parents for years, when and my mother always said this, with the rise of Fox News, she was like, time and again, if you sat back and listened to Walter, listened to the nightly newscast, you were presented the information that this bubble in New York City wanted you to know, that it wasn't, when it was local stories, that they were biased. And so she was like, the fact that you have the rise of these cable networks has been valuable.
Everybody lives in a bubble. Everybody lives in a bubble. And we were talking about this during the break. Technology is actually exacerbating that. It's actually making the bubbles worse to some extent, because now you can go out there and find the media that reinforces what you already believe,
and
whether or not you do it consciously. Because after you've clicked on a story 3 times or read 3 things on Facebook, the algorithm spits back more of the same. And so we're living in alternate realities too often. With
chosen realities.
chosen consciously or not, right?
Consciously or
subconsciously.
Somebody's doing the choosing.
Choice. Every individual in this country has the choice to be informed and to seek out those journalists who present you with unbiased information, where they've gone out and heavily sourced and heavily reported a story. And so I think that it ultimately still falls to the individual to be informed. Because again, like I remember I tweeted out that photo of Chris Christie sitting on the beach. It was a closed beach, and that governor was trolling his own people saying, yep, it's my beach, I closed it, you can't use it, I can't. That's essentially what he was doing, and I retweeted the photo, and I immediately got fake news. Fake news. I'm like, no, that's not fake. That governor is sitting on a closed public beach.
I live in Jersey.
That's right.
I know. So again, their inclination is to say it's fake. It's fake. I'm like, well, that's actually not.
You know what I have a
fake
problem
news
with?
has become something also that people just don't like.
It just means fake news. Too many people say it's fake if they don't like it.
Like the president is using
That's
it.
not. Well, the president uses it that way too. There are stories he doesn't like that he then says is fake. So like everybody does that, and it's just getting more and more heightened, right? And this technology thing, I agree with you. It shouldn't absolve people of their individual and personal responsibility.
No, but
we have a cycle. We have a vicious cycle going on right now where I talk to people, and some of us talked about it during the break, who will literally say, I don't know what to believe because there's so much confusing
they're living their own
information.
lives. They're hoping that there are a few of us who can dial it down to what is true.
You do. I was just going to say, lastly, I mean, as a journalist, you hope they come from a neutral place, but I think you have a lot of them waiting on the sidelines for anything bad to come out about President Trump, and they love jumping on that. Versus, let's wait for all the facts to come in and figure out how we want to write this story. I think there's too much of that, and that's why a lot of the American people are happy that he's going after the media.
I want to thank everybody on Facebook Live. You're so sweet. Everybody on Facebook Live, thank you for all of your comments and shout outs and on our live chat today. Mo, good to have you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks.